Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Michael and Dale at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Breaking news last night, U.S. Central Command announced that it had carried out a series of airstrikes on ISIS targets in central Syria following the collapse of the Bashar Assad regime. We have the latest details for you. President-elect Donald Trump sat down with NBC's Meet the Press this weekend, and let's just say he didn't hold back, especially when it came to his thoughts on FBI Director Christopher Wray. Also, President Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, is still facing resistance from within the GOP members of the U.S. Senate. He heads back to D.C. this week for more meetings with senators to make his case for confirmation. The manhunt for the killer of Unitedhealthcare CEO Brian Thompson continues, with the FBI releasing additional photos and increasing the reward being offered.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Big developments out of the Middle East. U.S. Central Command announced that it had carried out a series of airstrikes on ISIS targets in central Syria following the collapse of the Bashar Assad regime. After more than 50 years of the Assad family rule, the dictator fled to Russia under asylum as radical Islamic groups took control of the capital. President Joe Biden spoke briefly to the country last night.
What happened in the Middle East? After 13 years of civil war in Syria, more than half a century of brutal authoritarian rule by Bashar Assad and his father before him, rebel forces have forced Assad to resign his office and flee the country. We're not sure where he is, but there's word that he's in Moscow. At long last, the Assad regime has fallen. This regime brutalized and tortured and killed literally hundreds of thousands of innocent Syrians. The fall of the regime is a fundamental act of justice. It's a moment of historic opportunity for the long-suffering people of Syria to build a better future for their proud country. It's also a moment of risk and uncertainty. As we all turn to the question of what comes next, the United States will work with our partners and the stakeholders in Syria to help them seize an opportunity to manage the risks. For years, the main backers of Assad have been Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia. But over the last week, their support collapsed, all three of them, because all three of them are far weaker today than they were when I took office.
Far weaker than when I took office. Is Joe Biden suggesting that Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia are all weaker because of what he's done, something he's done? You think that's what he's actually suggesting? He's delusional, isn't he? CENTCOM's strikes targeted over 75 locations, according to officials, including ISIS leaders, operatives, and camps using B-52 bombers, F-15s, and A-10 Warthogs. Damage assessments are ongoing, but early reports indicate no civilian casualties. General Michael Eric Kurilla stated unequivocally, "We will not allow ISIS to reconstitute and take advantage of the current situation in Syria." CENTCOM, alongside regional allies, remains committed to dismantling ISIS's operational capability. Secretary of State Antony Blinken called this a moment of hope for the Syrian people and emphasized the U.S. support for a peaceful transition to an accountable government. He blamed Assad's downfall on his refusal to engage in a credible political process and his reliance on support from Russia and Iran. Blinken warned all actors in the region to respect human rights and avoid targeting civilians, signaling that the U.S. will hold Assad's backers accountable for atrocities, including the use of chemical weapons, which they have used in the past. This is a dynamic and a very dangerous period for this region, and the U.S. is making it clear that ISIS will not be allowed to exploit the chaos, and I'm just hopeful that they will stick to that. President-elect Donald Trump sat down with NBC's Meet the Press this weekend, and let's just say he didn't hold back, especially when it came to his thoughts on FBI Director Christopher Wray. Now, we all know that Trump appointed Wray back in 2017. He probably thinks it was a mistake, but it's clear that relationship has gone off the rails. And honestly, can you blame him? During the interview, Trump laid out his plans. He said, I quote, "He invaded my home. I'm suing the country over it," and basically said, well, what do you expect? Here's the exchange.
Are you going to fire the current FBI Director Christopher Wray, who you appointed?
Well, I can't say I'm thrilled with him. He invaded my home. I'm suing the country over it. He invaded Mar-a-Lago. I'm very unhappy with the things he's done. And crime is at an all-time high. Migrants are pouring into the country that are from prisons and from mental institutions, as we've discussed. I can't say I'm thrilled. I don't want to be Joe Biden and give you an answer and then do the exact opposite.
We're going to talk about
So
that,
I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to say is I certainly cannot be happy with him. You take a look at what's happened. And then when I was shot in the ear, he said, "Oh, maybe it was shrapnel." Where's the shrapnel coming from? Is it coming from heaven? I don't think so. So we need somebody to straighten. I have a lot of respect for the FBI, but the FBI's respect has gone way down over the last number of years.
Don't you have to fire him in order to make room for Cash Patel if he is, in fact, confirmed?
Well, I mean, it would sort of seem pretty obvious that if Cash gets in, he's going to be taking somebody's place, right? And somebody is the man that you're talking about.
Trump was, of course, talking about the now infamous FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago. And you think about it, I mean, a president had his home raided by the FBI. It was an unprecedented move at the time. It's left a permanent stain on the Bureau's reputation. Trump made it clear he's not thrilled with Wray's leadership. Respect for the FBI has plummeted, and Americans are rightfully asking questions about political bias and corruption at the highest levels. We know it's happening. We know that if, in fact, Christopher Wray and some of the leadership team that he has put in place, if they remain in place, they're going to be watching over Donald Trump's shoulder every step of the way. They're going to be disruptive to the new administration. But it wasn't just the raid that Trump is upset about. He pointed out the rising crime rates and the chaos at the southern border, which Christopher Wray has just set back. And I know it's not the FBI's sole function to protect the border, but they play a role in investigating crime around the country. As Trump said, crime is at an all-time high. Migrants are pouring into the country from prisons. From their countries don't want them there because they're bad people. These are issues the FBI is supposed to be addressing under Wray's leadership, and it's not happening. And then there's the comment about the assassination attempt, where Trump was grazed in the ear during the attack in Butler, Pennsylvania. Trump took issue with Wray's downplaying the situation, saying, as you heard, the shrapnel, where'd it come from? Out of the sky? And Christopher Wray actually said that. The frustration is understandable. When the head of the FBI can't seem to grasp the severity of an attack on a former president, you know there's a problem. If you don't know Cash Patel, let me tell you, he's a bulldog. He's a fighter who's been on the front lines of exposing corruption in the deep state. Patel's exactly the kind of guy who's going to clean house. He's going to restore integrity and get the FBI back to doing what it's supposed to do. Protect the American people and uphold the law. That's what Cash Patel will do. And let's not forget, firing Wray would be historic. If Wray doesn't step down voluntarily, Trump could become the only president in U.S. history to fire 2 FBI directors. But given everything we've seen from the Russia hoax, the Mar-a-Lago raid, is anyone really surprised? Do you think Wray will see the writing on the wall? You think he's probably already seen the writing on the wall? And don't you think, for the good of the country, that Christopher Wray should respect the fact that Donald Trump is being sworn in. He's starting a new administration on January the 20th, and the first thing that Christopher Wray should do is offer his resignation so there's no drama over Kash Patel taking his place. It's just that simple. That's what real leadership looks like. And if Christopher Wray wants to do what's right for the country, he'll step down and let Kash Patel take over. And I don't think this is about revenge. I don't think Donald Trump is going to go after someone because of political differences. I think he's going to go after people who actually have broken the law. And I can think Kash Patel is going to step up to the plate, and he's going to take on the government, and he's going to weed out the corruption within the government. So what's next? What takes place next? Well, again, we just have to wait and see what Wray's going to do. What do you think? Let me ask you. And you can text me, you can email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. Do you think Christopher Wray will do the right thing and go away and let Donald Trump appoint the person he wants to lead the FBI? Or do you think Wray's going to cause problems? Do you think he's going to try to stay on longer than he's outlive his welcome, I guess you could say? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. If you've been putting off a visit to PhD Weight Loss, now's your time because it comes with an amazing free gift. Joey Hudson here. During December, the founder of PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas, is giving the first 100 people to sign up for a consultation a free weight loss and energy supplement bundle. What a great gift. Do what I did. Take control now before heading into the indulgent holiday season. Get a grasp and avoid the holiday pounds. I dropped over 30 pounds, and I'm not worried about parties and overeating because my PhD coach taught me coping mechanisms to help me enjoy holiday events without gaining the weight. Best of all, I never took a weight loss drug. I'm not dependent on a prescription. And I was never hungry. PhD weight loss is not about depriving yourself. Lose the awful belly fat, gain energy, and avoid weight-related health issues. You will feel so amazing about yourself and truly enjoy the holiday season. PhD weight loss. Ask about the free gift when you book your consultation. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or go to myphdweightloss.com. Also, during the same interview on Meet the Press, President Trump made it clear that from his first day in office, he's going to pardon individuals involved in the January 6th Capitol breach, including those who pleaded guilty to charges stemming from that day. Trump didn't mince words, calling the justice system handling these cases very corrupt, suggesting that many of the guilty pleas were the result of coercion. He argued that defendants were given unfair choices between short sentences or the threat of decades in prison. Trump said he would act very quickly on the first day.
We're going to look at individual cases, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking first
issue
day.
these pardons.
These people have been there, how long is it, 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
You know, by the way, they've been in there for years, and they're in a filthy, disgusting place that shouldn't even be allowed to be open.
So far, more than 1,500 individuals have been charged for their involvement in the January 6th events, with over 1,200 convictions or guilty pleas. Around 200 people currently remain in custody. Trump defended those who assaulted police officers, claiming they had no choice. Critics are already raising alarms, worried that Trump may use the Justice Department to target political rivals. When asked about members of the House January 6th committee, Trump suggested they should go to jail, but added that he wouldn't personally direct their arrest. Instead, he said that his nominee for Attorney General, Pam Bondi, would decide whether to pursue individuals like Special Counsel Jack Smith, who led investigations against Trump and others in his administration. Trump did emphasize that his main focus is on America's future, not the past, stating retribution will be through success. He said that his success and turning the country around will be enough to satisfy him without going after his political enemies, as being suggested by Joe Biden. The Biden administration announced another aid package, this time a $980 and $98 million package to Ukraine aimed at bolstering its fight against Russian aggression. This marks the administration's 22nd aid package through the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative and underscores their effort to send as much support as possible before President-elect Donald Trump takes office in January. They're trying to just give our money away as fast as they can. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, he was speaking at the Reagan National Defense Forum, said that the aid would give Ukraine the tools it needs to prevail and invoked the legacy of President Ronald Reagan, asserting that Reagan would have stood on the side of Ukraine, American security, and human freedom. The package includes munitions for rocket systems, unmanned aerial systems, support for maintenance and repair programs to sustain Ukraine's combat power, according to the Defense Department. Meanwhile, President Trump met with Ukrainian President Zelensky during a ceremony in Paris on Saturday, marking the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Trump, who has been critical of the Biden administration's Ukraine policy, pledged during his campaign to end the war swiftly, though he hasn't given any specifics on exactly how he intends to do that. His running mate, J.D. Vance, has suggested that Ukraine cede territory to Russia and establish a demilitarized zone, a proposal that Zelensky has firmly rejected. However, President Zelensky recently signaled a greater openness to negotiations and reiterated his desire for Ukraine to join NATO. On Capitol Hill, House Speaker Mike Johnson rejected Joe Biden's request for an additional $24 billion in Ukraine funding, stated, "It's not the place of Joe Biden to make that decision now. We have a newly elected president." Speaker Johnson made it clear that Congress would follow Trump's direction once he assumes office. Now, isn't this crazy how the Biden administration is just trying to push to send billions more to Ukraine before he leaves? It's what's wrong with our government. I don't understand why even Democrats in Congress would sit back and allow this to happen. We all know that Joe Biden is a lame duck. Donald Trump is the future. So why would you do things like this? And I'm going to go through a whole list of things that Joe Biden is doing and trying to do these quickly to undermine Donald Trump's next term in office. Tensions are high in Ukraine with Russia. Joe Biden doesn't need to be meddling in these things because he's not going to be around to finish them. The Biden administration has been very clear that we should expect more aid announcements as they rush to shore up support for Ukraine before January 20th. I mean, we're looking at potentially billions more of our tax dollars going to Ukraine before January the 20th. While we're on the topic of national defense, President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, he's still facing resistance from within the party, most notably that of Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, who will not confirm whether she will vote for him or not. Trump nominated Hegseth, a decorated National Guard officer, a guy who's been on the front lines. Of course, we all know him as a TV person, as one of a host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Trump put it best when he said that with Hegseth at the helm, he said, America's enemies are on notice. He's ready to shake up the Pentagon, and Pete will bring the focus back to defending this great country, not indulging in leftist politics. Here's the kicker. Some senators seem to be dragging their feet on the nomination, with Joni Ernst being primarily the biggest person holding it back because she sits on the very powerful Senate Armed Services Committee. She's a retired Iowa National Guard lieutenant colonel. Senator Ernst says that she wants to hear more about his views on women in the military and his approach to addressing sexual assault. Fair enough. But let's be honest. This delay isn't sitting well with Trump supporters. Trump's allies aren't taking this lying down. They made it crystal clear. If you oppose Trump's nominees, you're opposing the Trump agenda, the agenda that they voted on November the 5th. One Trump ally told Fox News Digital there will be a political price to pay for that. And this is a new Republican Party. The days of playing nice with the establishment are over. We're in there to get something done. Even Donald Trump Jr. weighed in, calling out the hypocrisy. He said on X, if you're a GOP senator who voted for Lloyd Austin but criticized Pete Hegseth, then maybe you're in the wrong political party. He's right, isn't he? Some of these senators had no problem voting for Biden's woke Pentagon nominees, but now they're suddenly concerned about President Trump's nominees? What's wrong with that picture? Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Wow, what about the ACC Championship on Saturday? What a game, huh? After what appeared to be an overtime situation, the Clemson Tigers kicked a 56-yard field goal with seconds on the clock to defeat SMU outright for the ACC Championship and an automatic place in the CFP playoffs. Final score 34-31. So what's next up for the Tigers? The number 12 seed Tigers will face number 5 seed Texas on December the 21st at the Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin, Texas. The winner will face number 4 Arizona State, which won the Big 12 championship in the quarterfinals. With the new CFP format, numbers 5 through 8 host first-round games instead of playing at neutral sites. Texas, which is 6-1 at home this season, plays in front of over 100,000 fans, making this the toughest environment the Clemson Tigers has played in this season. Sadly, my Gamecocks ended the season at number 14. They did not make it in the top 12. They'll face Illinois, who ended up at number 21 in the Citrus Bowl in Orlando on December 31st. But what an exciting game with Clemson. As SMU came back, Clemson had them by 17 points a couple of different times. SMU fought back, and it appeared that they were going into overtime when Clemson kicked this 56-yard field goal. It was quite amazing. That's what makes football so exciting. The manhunt for the killer of Unitedhealthcare CEO Brian Thompson continues. This was a brutal, calculated murder in broad daylight in Midtown Manhattan last week. The more details we learn about this, the more chilling this case becomes. And now the manhunt for Thompson's killer has gone nationwide, with the NYPD and FBI pulling out all the stops to track down the suspect. They believe he has, in fact, left the New York City area, potentially headed back to Atlanta. Joe Cardinal is a retired NYPD lieutenant and former commander. He says this wasn't some random act of violence. He talked about how this was a planned execution. The killer knew where Thompson would be, planned his escape meticulously, and left behind some clues. Words like deny, depose, and defend scrawled on the bullet casings. These terms seem to be tied to the insurance industry, specifically to a 2010 book titled Delay, Deny, Defend: Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims. Thompson's wife confirmed that he had been receiving death threats, possibly tied to disputes over health care coverage. Think about that. The CEO of a major insurance company targeted, and someone decided to take their grievances to the ultimate extreme. Officer Cardinal's insights point to a suspect who he says probably isn't a professional hitman, but is certainly calculated. Mr. Cardinal thinks that the killer might be playing a dangerous game, believing he's smarter than the police.
Well, as I have stated this before, that he's not a professional, but he is calculated. All right, he obviously planned this out to a very good degree as well. He planned his escape route. He planned everything prior to it. I don't know if they have the exact number of days. It keeps changing of how many days he was actually here. But the fact that he left the bullets and the words he did put on there, he used the word depose instead of delay. He didn't use delay, he used depose. Who knows if this has anything to do with the civil suit that they may have instituted from somebody and it didn't go well. We don't know what it is. It could be just, a red herring that he's throwing out there right now to throw people off for the real reason as to why he did this. I'm still not convinced that this is somebody who just happened to be, upon him on that morning. I think he had intimate knowledge of where Mr. Thompson would be at that hour. Now, how did he get that knowledge is the big $1 million question right now. How did he know to be there at 6:45 in the morning? So the fact that he was over there for a little bit, that the one witness who heard the shot said that man was there and they saw him there, then that says a lot. But he's leaving these clues. He's discarding it. He planned it from the beginning. I'm going to go through the park. I'll get rid of the clothes. I saw the bag. I felt that it was overloaded with clothing or something shoved in there. Maybe they'll find something that etched those words into the rounds, the spent rounds, as well as the live rounds that they recovered. I said, maybe that's the thing that they may find. Maybe they found something at the hostel. But people have to be patient. These things just don't come 1, 2, 3. I mean, it looks like that on TV. All right, when the fact is, oh, look at him, he's going through the park. But this is days later that they're finding this out through the videos. He did this in a matter of, like an hour, and he's gone. He planned his escape. He's gone while they're still retrieving all these videos. So there's a lot of second guessing going on, but the NYPD is doing a bang-up job with this. They reached out to the feds, and rightfully so.
It is kind of mysterious the way this guy has done some things. I mean, he appears to have known, of course, that there would be video cameras in the area. He did make an attempt to hide his place in several public places. The Starbucks, just around the corner from where he committed this execution-style murder. The front desk at the hostel where he stayed, he evidently was flirting with the clerk at the desk who checked him in and uncovered his face as he was talking with her. But he also seems to be, just as the detective said, playing a game with police. And ultimately, he's going to lose that one. Because it's this type of arrogance, this need for recognition, and I think that's part of it too. He wants to become a household name, and he's going to be a household name when they arrest him, because they'll find him eventually. You don't do what he's done and leave the clues that he's left and not be caught. Not in modern days. Criminals crave the attention. They want to send a message. But as the detective pointed out, the arrogance often leads to mistakes. And when this guy gets caught, he's going to have his moment in the sun, but it's probably not going to be what he expects. Some folks are wondering why the NYPD and FBI haven't released the suspect's name. The detective explained that the public is on a need-to-know basis. Investigators are walking a tightrope here. They need to give us information to catch the guy, but just enough information to catch the guy. And so I don't know if they don't know his name or if they know it and they're not releasing it for a reason. The search is now expanded across multiple states. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward now. It started out a $10,000 reward with Crime Stoppers in New York. Now the FBI is offering $50,000. They're asking people if they recognize him or have any information about him to call 800-577-TIPS or visit Crime Stoppers' website. This isn't just about justice for Brian Thompson. This is about stopping a dangerous individual who clearly has no problem taking a life to make a statement. Now, I do think it's personal. The way he did this, I think, is very personal. It's almost like a crime of passion. And I think probably, and as I said last week after this first happened, I think we're going to find out that this guy was involved somehow in a claim that went south that deeply affected either himself or someone in his family by this health insurance company. But it also kind of exposes a darker reality in our society, doesn't it? That a grievance like this can escalate to the point to where a CEO is gunned down in broad daylight on a street as busy as 6th Avenue in New York City. Whether it's frustrations with the healthcare system overall, or just people don't care about violence anymore. The fact that someone felt emboldened enough to plan this and carry out this attack should be a wake-up call for all of us. We need to support the NYPD and the FBI as they work to catch the suspect. Now, over the weekend, the FBI also released a series of new photos of a male person of interest wanted for questioning as part of this ongoing investigation. The poster, which shows 3 images of the suspect's face, again, it appears to be the one that was released last week of him checking into the hostel. It appears to be one in the Starbucks as he's placing his order for coffee. Again, the guy did not make an effort to hide his face. He had to know that he was going to be seen. The way he had planned his escape into Central Park, he did that on purpose. He knew that there were video cameras, and he knew that he needed to get under the cover of the trees and the natural growth of Central Park in order for the cameras to lose him with enough time to disappear. It appears, based on the fact that they found what they say they think was his backpack. He probably had extra clothes in that backpack and changed in the brush, in the bushes of Central Park, and walked out looking like a different person, and that's why they lost him. That's why they can't find him based on the video images, is because wherever he exited Central Park, he looks like a different person. He has on different clothes. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch described the shooting that killed Thompson as a brazen, targeted attack and said it does not appear to be a random act of violence. Nobody believes it was random. Everybody believes this guy knew exactly who Brian Thompson was and had a reason for this execution-style assassination. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. I'll get to your text messages in just a moment, and a new study out on how pet owners voted in the presidential race in 2024. But first, for you movie buffs, there was a winning bid on the ruby slippers made famous by Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz, then stolen and found. They brought a whopping $28 million. Heritage Auctions had predicted they'd draw maybe $3 million, but the bidding blew past that in the first few seconds Saturday, according to the AP. Several bidders evidently were competing by phone, traded figures for about 15 minutes before stopping at $28 million. The winner's name was not released. According to the New York Times, there is simply no comparison between Judy Garland's ruby slippers and any other piece of Hollywood memorabilia. This, according to Joe Madalena of Heritage. The auction house said it's the most ever paid at auction for a piece of entertainment memorabilia. The shoes, one of 4 pair known to be worn by Garland in the 1939 film, were purchased in 1970 by collector Michael Shaw. He's selling them now. They were on loan at Minnesota's Judy Garland Museum when they were stolen by Terry John Martin, who used a hammer to break the museum's glass door and the display case that held the shoes. The 76-year-old was sentenced in January to time served due to poor health. His attorney said Martin had wanted to pull off the one last score and was under the impression the shoes were covered in real rubies, which he had hoped to sell. Actually, he was very disappointed because they're not rubies, they're sequins, and not worth very much by themselves. The AP reported the Judy Garland Museum was hoping to be the successful bidder and keep the shoes. Grand Rapids, where the museum's located, raised money for the slippers at its annual Judy Garland Festival. State lawmakers had also set aside $100,000 to contribute to the purchase of the slippers. $100,000. They brought $28 million. The auction includes other items from the movie, included a hat worn by Margaret Hamilton's Wicked Witch of the West, the screen door from Dorothy's Kansas home. Again, at $28 million, the state legislature totally underestimated the demand for the slippers, huh? Wow, $28 million for a pair of slippers. Have you ever thought about how pet owners voted in November? And as a dog owner myself, Jesse and Simon, our 2 Cocker Spaniels, they, of course, are Republicans. They love Donald Trump. Does it matter if you own a dog or a cat? Does it influence how you vote? Well, a new study is out, and it chronicles how pet owners voted in November. And according to the results, Kamala Harris won the cat ladies, but dog owners went for Trump. Here's the breakdown. According to the AP, Democrats may have some work to do among dog owners, which got very curious about how owners of cats and dogs voted in the November election. This, of course, after Vice President-elect J.D. Vance's comments targeting childless cat ladies, and Taylor Swift subsequently identifying herself as one of the cat ladies in her endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris. The resulting polling data offers some interesting insights, including that owning a dog seemed to indicate a likely vote for President-elect Trump, and owning a cat, and particularly women cat owners, were more likely to support Kamala Harris. Here's the breakout. Harris won 58% of women who have no pets and 59% of women who own a cat but not a dog. Trump won, on the other hand, 52% of women who own a dog but no cat. 52% of women who own a dog and a cat. He won 51% of men who have no pets, 52% of men who own a cat but no dog, 59% of men who own a dog but no cat. Are you confused now? 56% of men who own a dog and a cat. Basically, Pat, other than women cat owners, as J.D. Vance seemed to suggest, most pet owners voted for Donald Trump. Now, while the AP notes that these results could be tied to Harris's appeals to so-called cat ladies or Trump's claims that immigrants in Ohio were eating dogs and cats, party loyalty was likely a major factor. Yes. Just 40% of female cat owners identified as Republicans compared to 50% of female dog owners and 60% of male dog owners, according to the AP. So, just saying. On the text line, Tony writes, Joey, Governor DeSantis would be a great replacement, but that means voting a new governor in Florida, and DeSantis has been great for Florida. does that mean that he would nominate someone to take his place for the rest of his term? If so, Casey DeSantis would be a great replacement. I don't think he can nominate his successor, or I don't think he can nominate his wife to take his place and survive. Maybe so. I don't know. What do you think about that? What do you think about the governor appointing his wife to serve out the rest of his term? Ace writes on the text line, "Hello, Joey. I personally had several surgeries that went a lot longer than originally planned. It happens. Blue Cross Blue Shield is all about the money. They go out of their way to deny payout for most charges. I left Blue Cross Blue Shield because everything was a battle with them. Have a great day." And this is in reference to the story last week. Actually, it was Friday, I think. If you didn't hear it, go back and listen to Friday's episode. You can listen on the Odyssey app. You can listen wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for Joey Hudson, Just the Truth. But Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, had proposed that they would only pay for a certain amount of surgery or time for anesthesia. So during the surgery, if the surgery went longer, then they would no longer pay the remainder of the anesthesiologist his fee. And this, of course, upset a lot of doctors, upset a lot of patients. So much so that last week there was just a huge pushback on this, and Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield decided that they would reverse their decision and not put in limitations on how long they would pay for an anesthesiologist during a surgery. I mean, it was the most absurd thing you'd ever heard. I joked about it at the time. I mean, what are they going to do, wake you up in the middle of the surgery and ask you if you'd approve additional charges? But I think they realized just how far they had overstepped common sense. On the text line, Mr. Thomas in Morganton, he says, "I understand where Dawn from Illinois is coming from with his comments on Musk and Ramaswamy running Doge, and I do like hearing from him on your show, but I disagree." We have a disagreement between Mr. Thomas in Morganton and Dom in Illinois. He says these two individuals are cutting costs, looking after and managing many people every day. I don't believe they could be this successful if they did not take care of these people and their needs. I think they're a very good pick for this role. Texter, "Hey Joey, it's Jennifer. Allow me, if you will, to revisit something. Trump and Biden and the pardon. I think you're right. Maybe the two did discuss it during their White House visit, and maybe Biden asked for the favor, and maybe Trump said he'd think it over. Why else would Trump call Biden to wish him a happy Thanksgiving? All of America knows what was being discussed at the Biden Thanksgiving table. No pardon for Hunter means that Joe goes down too, and his brother Jimmy the Chin, and who knows where it stops. The country doesn't need that. Trump doesn't want that. All we want to do is go forward on this wonderful, positive jet ride into the future. So maybe Trump's Thanksgiving call was to say, you go ahead, Joe. I'm not going to, but you go ahead. Maybe so. That may be exactly how it played out, Jennifer. Could be. That's it for today's show. Tara's up next, followed by Mike Gallagher, and Mike is back this week. He was on a cruise last week. I had a great time sitting in for him. Followed by Bill Frady, Charlie James, and Mark Levin wraps things up. We're back again tomorrow at 5 a.m. for your first cup of coffee on Sunrise, Carolina. Until then, remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com. And I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.